First of all, come from service. You're never nervous. I learned that from speaking in Japan. I got booed in the first 3 minutes. In the first 3 minutes, I'm speaking to all these CEOs. So the head of Sony stands up and he starts berating me in Japanese. And I'm like, what's going on? I'm looking at the translator. I'm like, dude seems pretty upset. And then they translate. They're like, why should I trust you? You look like an average salesperson. And dude, I just spent $2,000 of that $12,000 on a Xenia suit.
Yeah, what the heck?
Yeah, and I'm like, dude, man. Anyway, I learned a big lesson there. I'm not going to be able to learn anything from you. I don't care you trained 1,000 people. And I said, you know what? You're right. You're not going to learn anything from me. If you're not open to learning, there's no one that could ever teach you anything.
Yeah.
But what I can tell you is I'm just here to serve and explain to you how I've built over 1,000 salespeople in Southeast Asia that are currently working. And if you're open to that, then potentially you'll get something out of this. If not, you won't.
And now the man you've been waiting for, John, the sales machine, Rankins.
Ladies and gentlemen, today's guest is a best-selling author and a sought-after go-to-market advisor. He has been part of 11 exits and worked with 12 unicorns. He is passionate about teaching founders and sales leaders how to get scalable and successful sales results. He spent the last decade building revenue communities and micro conferences. He's worked with over 100 companies around the world on go-to-market strategy, sales playbook creation, and messaging. RevOps, processes, recruiting, coaching, training, expansion revenue, partnerships, and more. He has 2 Amazon #1 best-selling books, Addicted to the Process and More Than a Number. As the Senior Vice President Sales at Quelia, he built the sales motion and team from 0 paying customers to unicorn status and beyond. As the Senior Vice President of Sales at Outbound Engine, they were named to the best places to work in Austin every year and grew revenue by over 650% during his tenure. In his time as VP of Sales at Main Street Hub, he was responsible for every aspect of sales and grew the team from 2 to 200. They made the Inc. 5000 fastest growing companies list in 2014 and 2015. And Main Street Hub was acquired in 2018 by GoDaddy for $175 million. Please welcome Scott Leese.
What's up, John? Thanks for having me, man.
Truth be told, I've been doing direct sales for 30 years and mostly predominantly in Southeast Asia. Skincare products, car care products, novelty items. But then we started representing other companies like Proactive Solution. They did the acting thing on TV in America. You know, they get all the celebrities. So we were a distributor, and we just went back and forth with other people's products and representing, you know, American Express, doing credit cards. And then eventually I created a methodology for scaling the business, and we put that into software, and that's called the sales machine.
And that's what you're selling now, right?
Yeah, so there's 2 things I focus on. Loyalty and rewards program is called Fun Crowd for small businesses. And that's gangbusters. I mean, we 3,000 clients in less than 3 years. But those are business owners, but all small business. We charge, that is balling, right?
Yeah.
Truth be told, that's $500 a year. Like, we really do. It's not giving it away. We're earning, but you know, it's a score. It's like a small business having the capability to do everything that Grab can do, or Uber or Airbnb. It really changes the game for them, because then they can just like big players.
I mean, it's still pretty good. 3,000 clients, $500 a year. That's 1.5 million. Pretty good.
Yeah, I don't get all that. So we give half to our people, and it is good because we give 50% back to all of our people. We're all about, we build organizations and empower the entrepreneur, put them into business for themselves, and then we just supply all the goods.
Good. Hey, you're living like a king out there.
And the reason, well, I was, and then I started the sales machine, and
then you sunk all your money into that.
Yeah, I'm 2 million in. So,
Yeah.
I'm here as a student today, not the big, confident dude. Yeah, I've made millions, dude. I've lost millions, but I do it for all the right reasons. So wouldn't change a thing. And I made a lot of mistakes. I had the naivete. We'll call it naivete, not just naive. I want it to sound sophisticated. I had the naiveness to actually think, because I'd only ran a business doing direct sales and, building thousands of salespeople, that potentially I didn't have the expertise to go to market and know what an ideal customer profile was. So I hired all these experts.
You didn't hire me.
You're absolutely right. And guess what? I fucked up. I messed up, man. And I own it. So now what I do know is when I go on sales calls, I can sell. I don't care what it is. So since I've took over all of the clients and the leads, I'm not challenged actually doing all the meetings and the sales myself. Now I am challenged, like, go to market, because I don't have an ad budget. It's all boots on the ground for me currently in Asia, because I used that $1 million on personnel and they sold nothing. And then I found out their pipeline. I learned to manage pipelines. I've learned all of this along the way from Mark Roberge and all these guys that are selling in Silicon Valley, Richard Harrison, John Brown, all of, Cognac.
All my friends. These are all my friends.
Yeah, and great people, dude. And I'm like, if they can do it, so can I. All right, let's see them go door to door in Billy Goat eating shit countries.
Yeah, they probably won't do that.
Yeah, they won't. And it's because they found a better way. But if they can do it, I can do it too. I don't care. And I took my $2 million and built a fucking software that's enterprise level. I've just got to figure out the ICP, the GTM, the CEOs, the COOs, the EIEIOs, once I sort them out. But I don't need those guys yet. I do need guidance, though. I'm full disclosure. But you are doing something different than all your buddies or your friends. Because they don't build sales teams. I do. They just teach how to sell. And they don't build software. I have. So, and I'm not comparing me to them. I got full respect. They've been on my podcast and they have taught me so much in such a short period of time. I'm blown away.
Well, you've got the potential to have a big upside that none of us have. That's the beauty of building a software business. Maybe you sink a couple million into it, but if you can get that thing to be worth or have revenue of 10 to 20 million, you can sell that sucker for generationally changing money.
Yeah, and it's crazy because I live modestly. Truth be told, I do. But it's been a challenge, especially for my lady, because she's like, man, you keep spending all this money. And I'm like, but I'm going to make a ton of money. I'm telling you. And I've already had 5 investment groups, but it's all about annual recurring revenue. 5 investment groups, even Mark Roberge from HubSpot said, man, I love it. I love the concept. So when you're doing $1 million, come back, because I've had 5 investment groups find me and say, look, we want to buy the sales machine. I'm like, I'm pre-revenue. I don't, I know this game. You want to know ARR. You want to know growth.
Get that number up first, and then you'll be worth 10 times as much.
Yeah. And, I can live off $250,000 a year. Well, that's my team. That's to take care of my team. I don't need $250,000 a year to live off of, because I just don't, Well, I probably do. I need $250,000. She pays all the bills. I just give her the money, right? And that's fine, because I'm like, I'm not money driven. I'm make a difference driven. And so that's why I built the sales machine. It's how to build and scale a sustainable, scalable sales team and automate the entire process of doing it. So it's really like having Salesforce, MailChimp, My Brain, the accountability piece through achievement, Zendesk, and Teachable or Lightspeed in one platform where you can manage, track, measure, align, and reward all behavior from the entire beginning of prospecting to fulfilling the sale through, and then upselling, even like through Zendesk. The whole pipelines for everything. Just pipeline from this, from marketing to the sales, from the sales to the customer success, to the training systems. And it's all based around gamification and rewarding people for the right behaviors, right?
That's great.
And the other ones will read themselves out. So how do we go to market? Come on, Scott, you got to tell me.
I got all the answers.
Come on, you've worked with 130 companies. Like, I look at your bio, and I don't care about the followers. I mean, you did great with the followers, 111,000. But John Brown got like close to 400,000. And I asked him about how do you build and scale a sales team. He's like, I don't fucking do that. I've had all my salespeople leave me, and I'm tired. I don't train. I don't recruit. I don't recruit and develop. I only train how to sell. I was laughing. Like,
that sounds like John.
Yeah, well, I don't make stuff up, man. I wouldn't do that. But I love his passion. And I talked to Richard, and I talked to Cognac. Cognac now trains and develops people, and he seems like a real cool cat. Love Richard Harrison's framework of NEAT. You know, now I got all these frameworks, dude. That I juggle frameworks: BANT, MEDIC, SPIN, NEAT, the bank system. And I built my own because I'm like, NEAT's pretty cool, but when I get to authority, right? It's not, when I'm in meetings, there's so many X factors that haven't been taken care of from need and economic impact. And I'm like, wait a minute, dude. I'm sitting in boardrooms all the time. I know authority, once we check that box, it's pretty obvious. But the truth is, there are so many X factors that haven't been considered. It's not just one authority. Is it multiple authorities? You're talking to a cheerleader, you're talking to a champion, all this terminology. But the bottom line is the budget, all those things considered. So there's like a lot of X factors. And who's the dude that could tank the deal? That IT guy over there in the corner, that dude taking notes, he could tank the whole deal. I'm like, all right, I'm building my own. It's not NEAT anymore.
Yeah, even better to build your own.
That's right.
Listen, whatever framework somebody uses, if they apply it consistently and they believe in it, you're going to have success with it.
Yeah, but I want to know Scott's.
Mine? Yeah. Fun fact about me, I've never studied or read any of those fancy acronym frameworks. Never done spin selling, never done Sandler sales, never done MEDIC, BANT, none of that stuff. Don't believe.
If you use MEDIC, you'll need a medic.
I've never used any of them.
It is, dude. I went through all these frameworks because my naiveness and why we weren't selling. So truth be told, I had several surgeries last year. So these guys were running the show, and I allowed them to run the show. But obviously, along the way, I'm like, wait, guys, lots of salaries and no sales. Like, what's going on with the pipeline? And so I had to study all these things. And MEDIC is the most complicated one of all. And I'm like, man, can we just have a conversation and trash these frameworks?
Yeah, I never did those frameworks. I got into sales in a really roundabout way. I got really sick in my early 20s. I spent 4 years in the hospital fighting for my life, had a bunch of life-saving surgeries, got addicted to opioids, had to kick off drugs. And I was 27 years old before I started selling. And I grew up in this like boiler room kind of sales arena where you had 2 hours of training in the morning and then they handed you the freaking phone and said, go make it happen. So I didn't have coaching or training. I didn't have fancy tools. There was no CRM. I didn't even have a headset. I was holding a manual phone with my head tilted, right? And as I was learning how to sell, I realized that nobody cared about me at all. They didn't care about my company at all. All they cared about was themselves, and specifically like what's broken, what's busted, what's pain, right? And I realized this is very similar to how you deal with an addict. The first thing you have to do is you have to get somebody to admit to you that they have a problem. So I just started asking questions until John would be like, yeah, that's a challenge for me. And then I would spend a little bit of time trying to educate them on why they should care about this. This is like the value, like what's the importance of fixing this problem? Most of us probably know functioning addicts of some sort. They know they have a problem, but they don't do anything about it because my health is not at risk, my job's not at risk, my family's not at risk, whatever, no big deal. And so it takes that hitting rock bottom, which I equated to urgency in a sales cycle, for somebody to do something about it. So all these businesses know they have some top of funnel problem. They know they should fix it, but I've got 1,000 other problems that I need to deal with. So how do I get this person to feel the urgency to hit rock bottom, to take corrective action, to do something about it? And once I got somebody to kind of talk to me about those three things, then I thought, well, now they're ready to hear about me, my service, my product. So now we can talk about what we do. That's like the rehab kind of portion. You don't walk up to an addict and say, hey, I got this killer rehab facility. You're ready to go. You have to go through this progression of like, yes, I have a problem. Okay, yes, I understand I should fix it. Oh, fuck, I better fix it right now. Can you help me? Oh, we can go to that rehab. Okay, great. And without realizing it, I kind of created my own sort of model of selling. And I ended up writing a book about it called Addicted to the Process, and this sales model of addiction selling, which is really, really simple. It's just a conversation, but I get somebody to admit to me that they have a problem. They understand why they should fix it. They realize that they should fix it now. And then they ask me, how do I do that? And then I give them my answer and my solution. So when you say like, what's Scott's framework for selling? That's the basis of everything. And I learned that, through a combination of going through hell in my youth and just experience of picking up the phone and making 100-something calls a day and kind of figuring it out. And I've been able to apply it successfully, everywhere I went, and did it 6 times as a VP of sales, and have instilled some sort of version of that in 130 plus companies at this point in time. So like you, I'm not an acronym guy.
Yeah, I got nothing but admiration for you, dude. I had a couple surgeries last year, and I'm in Manila, and they're on my shoulder. I snapped the tendons, actually doing the right thing, working out. Had one surgery. It was great. I powered through it. Then 2 or 3 weeks later, so I'd snapped the 2 tendons, tore the bicep. Anyway, they fixed it all up. Doc's like, I'm good. You're good. I even fixed your bicep, cleaned up your shoulder. I went to the second surgery. Then I slipped, and it caught a door, and it snapped a tendon and ripped those stitches out internally. So I had to do another surgery. Oh. And I was like, oh my God. And they gave me Oxycontin. And I had no idea they gave me Oxycontin. And so I get out of the hospital and I take one of these pills, and I'm like, what is this? And the next day, literally, I woke up and I'm like, I had this voice in my head, I need a pill. And I was all fidgeting, and I'm like, what the fuck did they give me? And literally from 1 week in the hospital and 1 pill later, I knew something was wrong. And I found out it was Oxycontin. I watched that shit. I'm like, this is heroin. Like, this is real heroin. This is legal heroin. This is insane. This is the most addictive substance on the planet Earth. They're like, are you guys crazy? I called Doc. I'm like, are you out of your mind? What did you give me? He goes, well, man, you just had 2 surgeries. You need something. And I'm like, I ended up taking Advil and Tylenol cocktails because I'm like, I'm not doing it. I have a 6-year-old boy. I'm not going to walk around like a flake in front of my son.
Yeah. I get it.
So mad respect to you. I love it. I got to get the book, Addicted to the Problem.
Addicted to the Process.
To the process. I got to get the book more and more based on my experience of just putting myself out there. I love to go in the field. I'm 55 years old and I still take my guys in the field. I'm like, let's go do it. Let's go have a conversation. And it's all about the problem. I'm like, the bottom line is sales is a service. Like I believe in what Zig Ziglar said. First of all, come from service. You're never nervous. I learned that from speaking in Japan when I got booed in the first 3 minutes. In the first 3 minutes, I'm speaking to all these CEOs. So the head of Sony stands up and he starts berating me in Japanese. And I'm like, what's going on? I'm looking at the translator. I'm like, dude seems pretty upset. This is the first time I did a keynote ever in my life. And I've only built, I've built literally tens of thousands of guys in direct sales. Literally, dude, in countries that, that are like India when it was called Bombay, right? Like hardcore shit. I mean, horrible, dirty. Anyway, I'm speaking on stage about 3 minutes in. I just bought a new suit. They gave me 12 grand, right, to speak. And dude starts just literally berating me. And then they translate. They're like, he's like, why should I trust you? You look like an average salesperson. I mean, look. And dude, I just spent $2,000 of that 12,000 on a Xenia suit.
Yeah, what the heck?
Yeah, and I'm like, dude, man. And I learned a big lesson there. I'm like, He said, I'm not going to be able to learn anything from you. I don't care. You trained 1,000 people. And I said, you know what? You're right. You're not going to learn anything from me. If you're not open to learning, there's no one that could ever teach you anything.
Yeah.
But what I can tell you is I'm just here to serve and explain to you how I've built over 1,000 salespeople in Southeast Asia that are currently working. And if you're open to that, then potentially you'll get something out of this. If not, you won't. So I got berated in the first 3 minutes. And what's nuts is when he sat down, the rest of the CEOs stood up and gave me a standing ovation.
Oh, look at that.
Wow, because I was sweating bricks up there, dude.
I bet.
I'm like, this is the first time and you're just killing me, man. You're killing me. So how did you get into sales? I mean, you started out in boiler rooms and that's how sales were.
That was it. I had no experience. I had never done sales before. Like I said, I kind of got through my health crisis, and I had a friend who suggested that I take a look at sales. And he was like, you can make good amount of money, you can move up fast, you don't have to have experience, go to a startup. I was living in the San Francisco area at the time, and I found an early stage startup that just entry level cutting room floor type thing. Learn the game, make 100+ calls a day, and that was it. I just needed somebody to take a chance on me, and I didn't really feel like I had a fallback plan or a safety net. So I just kind of, threw myself into it, and I've been doing that ever since, really. Being one of the better people on the team, the number one sales rep, and then being given a sales team of 20 something people, and then running a couple offices with 50, 60 total people, all in the span of like 8 months. Yeah, it's wild, and not that many people can get through an experience like that without completely bombing, completely failing, whatever. So it's a testament a little bit to, you got something in you that is hard to kind of measure, but you were committed, you have natural ability of some sort, and you work your butt off, right? And you're a teacher. You said before, sales is a service. Well, I think leadership, especially sales leadership early on, is about teaching. It's about educating. You're an educator, right? It's about teaching other people. Yeah.
100% agree, dude. And you know what? That's my playground. Like literally, you put me in a room
Yeah.
full of people, and I just want to bring out the best in them. I want to, like, I went on to promote vice presidents, give away car programs, house programs. Like literally, I've worked with thousands of people, and currently I even work with over 3,000 in Southeast Asia, from Taiwan, Thailand, Malaysia, Indonesia, Singapore, and the Philippines. And that's been our methodology for growth, right? If we just pay it forward, we allow them with the direct sales model to actually go from, somebody without experience to all the way up into vice president and partnership. It's not
Yeah.
multi-level. It's just there's levels, but it's not like multi-level or network marketing. And we literally guide them and empower them with frameworks and a system and a product, and we finance that product so that they can, change their lives and fulfill their own dreams. That's the model, and I just continue to do it. Now the software companies are a little bit different, and I'm working out how I can do that as well as learning how to sell, because I'd never sold a software before. But what I'm finding is it's just the software gives the people the system. And whatever training methodology you have, you can insert it because there's a training system in it. And then your people, your organization, however many stages of the deal there are, or the prospecting or the customer onboarding, you customize the system yourself. We build it, so you customize it for your methodology, for your company. So I'm not saying how you're going to run your company. I just give you the ability to do it and customize it without paying to customize it. So the first thing I ever sold was baggy pants. I mean, I was a newspaper boy. I cut your lawn. I painted your.
Yeah. You had all this experience when you were young. I didn't have any of that experience.
Yeah, well, you've surpassed me, dude. So I'm a fucking late bloomer.
I mean, the first thing that I ever sold was online lead generation services for real estate agents and automotive dealers. That was my first sales gig. This is early 2000s, and it was all about, this portal and this website that we have. We'd get all these leads of people looking to buy a car or looking to buy a house in a particular area, and you'd call up automotive dealers or real estate brokerages and be like, John, you still an agent in the Austin, Texas area? Yes. Cool. I've got like 5 or 10 people coming through every single month looking to buy or sell a house. And I don't really have anybody to send them to. I don't have any partners in the area. I'm looking to find an agent or two. Is that something that you're able to do and interested in? It's like, I still kind of know parts of the pitch from 20 years ago,
Well, you're 100 calls a day, dude.
Yeah. Yeah. That was no kidding. No kidding either. Yeah.
Building that muscle, conditioning it, and you start intuitively learning what works and what doesn't work.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
A lot of the challenge today is people don't want to do the work.
Yeah, that is definitely part of it. There's an aversion to that level of hard work. There's also behavioral changes that are very real. I mean, people don't pick up the phone as much anymore and have conversations just in general. So even if I made 100 something calls today, I probably would not be able to have the same number of conversations today as I was able to have 20 something years ago. So there's inherent challenges there, but modern sellers today, you just simply don't get the same number of at-bats. You don't get as much practice, right? And there's more pressure than ever. So when you do get an at-bat, you better not screw it up. You better convert it. But how are you ready to convert it if you've had like 2 of these calls all week? It's hard. It's definitely hard out there.
Hey, man, I agree. And yeah, I just heard John Brown talking about it the other day. And he's like, during COVID, people kind of got comfortable. Things were really good. Now we got to get back to work. It's not as easy as it was in COVID. And I just experienced it because I still run a sales team. Scott, I just love to run a sales team. I'm training a new girl, and it just inspires me every day. And the way I work with her is role play, and you shadow me for a month. Everywhere I go, you go. And we just keep going to these different companies, and she's learning, and she's starting to jump in. And I just love to see my people grow. That really juices me.
Yeah.
And I had one of my guys the other day. You're right. He's like, I'm pounding the phones and no one's answering, or I cannot get through the gatekeeper, and I'm challenged. And I said, well, thanks for letting me know. Let me show you how I made my first $1 million. Knock, knock. Get in the car. So I took him to the mall, dude. We got 128 leads in 2 days. I'm like, store to store, door to door. Come on. Now what? Now you got 128 leads. Do the follow-ups. You have any challenges from there? Get me involved. If you got a big group, get me involved. Invite me. And I find it amazing that how people sometimes get stuck in their own box or think there's only one way to do something.
Yeah.
Because, I literally made my first $1 million going door to door. That's what it was. And I didn't do it on my own. I taught others to do it. I built a team and then from a team, it became a platoon, and from a platoon, it became an army.
Yeah.
Literally.
I always found that far more fulfilling. It's actually why I ended up getting into sales leadership and building sales teams. It was more interesting and appealing for me to teach this kid how to sell and watch them close a deal and go on and succeed than it was for me to close yet another deal. That lost its appetite a little bit after I felt like I'd already proven that I know what I'm doing. And the rush would come from, can I teach all these other people? And then I'd do that. I'd get a little bit bored with that, and I'd leave and I'd go to some other company that, was bare bones and just getting started. And I'm like, I wonder if I can sell this. Okay, I figured out how to sell this. I wonder if I could teach other people how to sell it. And then I just grow and scale that sucker again. And then 3 years would go by and there'd be 500 people in the company. And I'd be like, fuck this. It's too much red tape. It's boring. And I'd go again, find some early stage company, start from scratch. I wonder if I can sell this. Oh, I can. I wonder if I could teach other people to sell it. Oh, wow, we can. Grow that. And I just kept doing that, over and over. And that's the rewarding part for me, was seeing all the people that, I hired and trained and see them succeed, see their lives change. And, now 20 years later, most of the people that I worked with back then, they're all vice presidents, founders, doing amazing things. And you get messages from some of those people, and they remember something that you said to them, 5, 10, 20 years ago. And you're like, holy shit, I actually had an impact on that person. That stuff keeps you going. It's very rewarding. It's enough to keep you going another day, fight on,
Yeah, I call it priceless.
Yeah.
I have had so many people along my journey.
Yeah, those are the notes you want to save, right? You want to save those, put them in a frame or something like that. It's like, wow. Yeah.
Of thank you cards and different things. I have a bag, and I literally do. And, some relationships work out, some don't. And truth be told, I've wanted to quit 100 times.
Oh, sure.
So many fucking times, going through different challenges. Literally, I've seen presidents get turned, in different countries. I've seen the banking crash in Asia. I saw Indonesia when I had over 1,000 guys there. It was on fire with riots. I've gotten, blacklisted from the country. People stole all my wealth. I had to leave the fucking country on a boat to come and come back and fight to get my money back, which I never did. I went through so many different challenges, and there's something you can't teach there. And you said it earlier. There's something within certain people that, intuitively, they just have a skill. and or they have something different than others. And to me, that's hunger.
Yeah.
And that's the one thing I cannot teach. I cannot teach you to be hungry. And truth be told, when I got involved in sales, I got out of the military, used my savings to save my mom's house because it was in foreclosure. And then 2 months later, it's still foreclosed. I don't know what she did with the money. And then my little brother, I had a new RX-7. It wasn't brand new, but I had an RX-7. I got out of the military. I'm like, well, at least I still got my car. No, he totaled it for 2 weeks before I got out. So I used my savings. My brother totaled my fucking car. And I'm like, and I still had to pay for this car, even though it was totaled because it didn't have insurance. It was supposed to be sitting in his garage. And I was just hungry. And I was hungry to buy my mom a house because I was raised by a single mom, and that was the most important thing. I'm like, I get my mom a house, I'm done with this. But something happened along the way. Along the way, I started teaching all these people, and I started watching them develop, and I started seeing them get success. So at first, I was in love with this opportunity because it would give me the ability to buy my mom a house. But once I'd bought my mom a house, I had literally helped over 1,000 people. And so I fell in love with what I was doing. And, I spoke in Japan about 6 months ago. I speak at different organizations and they didn't pay me. I was there with my colleague, my buddy, and we went to this convention. There was 128 business owners there, and they called him up and he did his thing, and I was just sitting on the sidelines to support him. And then they called me up out of nowhere, and I'm like, what you want to know from me? Okay, no worries. I'll do a Q&A, it's fine. And people said, how do you stay motivated? How do you keep going? And I said, well, there was a speech by Steve Jobs, and he said, you know what? Do what you love and you'll never work again. But I don't know about you guys, but my mommy and daddy, they never paid for college. First of all, I don't even have a dad. So not all of us have that luxury of falling in love with what we do.
Sure.
So for me, if you're not in love with what you do right now, and you cannot afford to do what you love right now, fall in love with why are you doing it until you can do what you love, and work towards that every day.
I think that's good advice. I mean, I remember my dad telling me when I was young something to the effect of, they call it work for a reason, son. He doesn't understand this concept of work's supposed to be fun or whatever. It's no, it's fucking work for a reason. That's why they call it work.
Yeah, I heard a quote, Scott. Someone said, you know why they call it work? Because it works. You're going to have to do some work if you want to create anything great.
One way or the other. And you're not going to love it every single day. You're not going to be good at it necessarily every single day. You're going to fail. You're going to have setbacks. You're going to want to quit. Even when you're doing well, sometimes you want to quit or you don't want to do anything today. Today's Tuesday. We just got done with a 3-day weekend, Memorial Day weekend. I woke up this morning and I had 10 hours worth of meetings, and I'm like, I don't want to do this. I run my own business. I could have canceled every single one of them, but I didn't. I showed up for all of them. I'm doing it anyways. And that's some of the discipline that you learn and accrue, along the way. And it becomes a muscle of sorts. It becomes easier to kind of block out the noise of that little voice in your head that says, take the day off. Don't work. You don't have to do anything. No, I know that would feel good today, but that's not what I need long term.
Yeah, well, I love how the trajectory from you working in companies, building sales teams. What do you think were the key factors in you developing and building sales teams that would work to still even today?
Well, I just turned everything into like a process and kind of getting uniformity and alignment. So, I'd hire the right type of people when it was time to hire. And I hired people with that hunger. I didn't care about somebody's fancy resume. I cared about who is this person in front of me today? Where do they want to go? How bad do they want to get there? Right? And I'd surround myself with those kinds of people. I got real intentional about locking down my ideal customer profile. It's very dangerous when a founder says, we can sell the sales machine to anyone. That's not what I want to hear, because then you're unfocused and you're not having the same conversations over and over. So I would narrow in our ICP really, really tight, and I wouldn't expand until we got really good and repeatable at doing that one thing. I'd figure out, our pitch. I'd make sure everybody was more or less saying the same thing at the same time, showing off the same parts of the product, handling objections the same kind of way, quoting pricing the same sort of way. So I just created this like operational rigor and this sort of culture of continuous learning and development and practice and repetition. And you combine those things with having a good product to sell and strong desire, you're in good shape, and you can make a lot of things happen. So that's kind of where it starts. And
yeah, something stood out with me the first time we met, right? And it was a short interaction, but I explained to you the situation I was in, and and I'm like, I believe in what I'm doing. I put the work into what I'm doing, and I still haven't figured it out. So, I'm gonna have to sell a house. And you said, John, you don't need to sell a house. You need to sell more licenses. And then the conversation was cut short, and I'm like, oh, hell no. Oh, hell no. I got to talk to Scott. What's going on? Because you talk about being hungry. Like, we get up at 4:50 in the morning. I'm in Manila to do these podcasts. And I've done this since like really November last year. And I've done like 56 of them.
Yeah.
Like and I still run my company. I still, I'm out in the field with my guys. Like, I am 100% committed to what I'm doing. And then the phone just cut off. And I'm like, did you hear what he said? He's right.
Well, you have to look at something like that and sometimes shine a mirror on yourself that might not be pretty. It's like, I'm working my ass off. We're doing these things, but I'm not getting the results. Why are the results not coming? Is it an effort problem? That's not it. In your case, right? It's not an effort problem. Okay. Is it a focus problem? I don't know. Is it an execution problem? I don't know. No, that's not neither here nor there. But like, I have this problem because I tend to try to take on too many different projects all at once and think I can do everything, right? So I might have 7, 8 different businesses that I'm working on at any given time. And you could easily make the argument to me that's like, Scott, your pipeline, your consulting business is not where it's supposed to be. And it might be because you're spending too much time on these other businesses. So that's a hard truth that I might have to say to myself, or a hard question I might have to ask of myself, right? Am I networking with the right people? Are the activities and things that I'm doing every single day actually designed to generate revenue, or are they doing something else? Am I overcomplicating this thing? A lot of people who sell a product, they're in love with every single thing that their product can do, and they think the market wants to share in that knowledge. That's not true. If you go to buy a car, you used to be a car salesman. The wrong thing to do if you're trying to sell me a car is to talk to me about every nut and bolt and in that car and every little thing that car is capable of. I don't care. That will overwhelm me. It will confuse me. It will feel icky, like you're trying to just sell me something. If you just came up to me and you're like, what brought you here today, man? And I'm like, well, I'm thinking about getting a new car. And you say, well, what are the things you care about? I'm like, well, the color, the safety, the, size, that's it. Cost, 4 things, right? And you're like, all right, well, that narrows it down. We can talk about only that. Now I trust you. And now you're not overwhelming me. And that's a faster sales cycle, a faster purchase decision. So that same strategy is applied to software. I don't need to see every single feature that your software is capable of. You only need to show me a couple that matter the most, and then let me ask questions about the other things that I need to see. So if we're not making enough sales and selling enough licenses, maybe we're overcomplicating the fucker. Maybe we're selling too hard. We're showing too many different things, right? Maybe we're just going after the wrong ICP. Maybe we're trying to sell, to this particular target buyer over here, and that's actually not the people who feel the pain the most, and we should be over here selling, right? All of these things may or may not be the case, but the point is you have to ask yourself these difficult questions if things are not working. And a lot of times it just comes down to effort and attitude and then execution. And you have to be willing to make tweaks and changes. Doesn't mean you have to overhaul everything, but you do have to be willing to make adjustments as you go.
100% agree. I'm not an academic, and now I'm grateful that I'm not an academic. But I've got. You hear people say, I've read 1,000 books. I'm like, yeah, so fucking what? What did you implement? You read 1,000 books and you're still broke, or you're living in mediocrity. I've read 1,000 fucking books too, and I've implemented a lot of stuff, and then I listened to a lot of people. And what I never wanted to happen, Scott, was that I become the blocker in my business. So I listened to a lot of people, sometimes it's the entrepreneur, it's the founder that, stops the growth trajectory. And I'm like, you know what, that's not going to be me. I'm going to hire these people so I don't do it. Or so that they have the freedom to grow it. That didn't work. So I'm like, you know what, bullshit. And then when we had our last call, I'm like, you know what? He's fucking right. I've been waiting around for all of these salespeople to go out there and do something. And I've allowed this frameworks of nonsense. Like the guy brought in his manual to teach the team sales. And literally, we're looking at like 400 pages. I'm like, who the fuck is going to learn all that?
Yeah. And in what time frame, right?
Yeah. Yeah, you're just milking the cash out of the company. You guys are selling nothing. And your sales training before a guy even sees a fucking pitch is a month. You're insane.
Yeah.
So I'm like, all right, all salespeople, now they're all gone. And I'm like, all right, me. Now it's me. Because our phone hung up when you said, John, you just need to sell some licenses. So I'm like, all right, guys, I'm in the field. Every single one of those leads we're reconnecting with, I'm going in the field. Let's go. And it's been enlightening. Like some of these clients are like, yeah, we wanted to sign with the sales machine. Unfortunately, we've already signed up with someone else because no one ever got back to me.
Yeah. And that's an example of, a lack of operational rigor, essentially, that allowed that to occur. And that's the type of stuff that you want to work on and build into your process to prevent that type of thing from happening, right? And you've got an answer and you've got a play, if you will, for every type of scenario, so people know exactly what they're supposed to do, when they're supposed to do it, with whom they're supposed to do it. That's the challenge. And every single sales org goes through these challenges more than once, by the way. They're always all looking to fix it and shore it up.
So what made you, I mean, you were a VP of sales in several different companies. What made you take the leap and start your own company and start working with startups?
Well, a few things. I didn't really feel like there was that much left to learn in the VP of sales role. I felt like I'd already done it. There really wasn't much left to earn. I was already kind of maxed out for what you can earn in the startup kind of area. And I was a little bit tired of essentially like getting burned, like being lied to, or, you know, making millions and millions of dollars for founders, and I'm getting table scraps. So I sort of have this 3-pronged framework that I've used over the years called learned, earned, and burned. And that's how I decide whether or not it's time for me to leave a company. Have I learned everything that I need to learn in this particular role? There's nothing left for me to learn, really. Have I maxed out the comp plan? Have I earned everything that I'm able to earn? And have I been burned? Has the company mistreated me in any way? Have they, you know, screwed me over? Have they held back commissions? Whatever burned means to you. And so I sit around and I think, if I learned, earned, and burned, I check all 3. What is there left for me to prove, right? And so I finally thought, well, what's the worst thing that can happen? The worst thing that can happen is I go on my own for a year and I fail, and then I have to go get a VP of sales job again. Oh, well, how is that scary, right? So I felt like I had a body of work. I felt like I had enough experience. I felt like I had a good network, and, you know, I felt like I knew what I was doing. I thought it was interesting to have the opportunity to work on 10 different companies at a time, 10 different products, 10 different services, 10 different pitches, 10 different sales cycles. That's exciting to me versus selling one thing and talking to, you know, real estate owners all day long, or talking to HR directors over and over and over. Like, I got a short attention span for that kind of thing, but I could talk to 10 different buyer types about 10 different products in 10 different industries. That keeps my skill set sharp, I think. And from an earning perspective, you know, I went from making 400 something grand a year to making over $1 million the first year I was consulting. So the earnings are there, right? So, you know, it took me a while. I think I probably could have pulled the trigger sooner, but I really wanted to make sure that I truly felt like there was nothing left for me to do in this VP of sales kind of world before I went to try to tackle this other thing.
Yeah, that's, you know, and that's really admirable, because a lot of people don't want to put in the work to really master what they're good at. And for me, mastery is a journey. It's not a destination. You know, I'm still learning all the time. And I was dealing with a lot of, you know, integrity issues with one of my divisions. And, you know, it went on for 5 years. I would, you know, weed out the bad. But eventually I found out the bad was the leaders. And so I had a hard decision to make. And even though it was making me, you know, close to $1 million a year, I said, you know what, this is toxic. And I'm fucking tired of it.
Yeah.
I don't care. The money's not going to, the money doesn't make me happy. And working with people without integrity definitely doesn't make me happy. So I shut it all down. I got rid of 600 people. Yeah. But, you know, they're all playing games. And I'm like, you know, and I look back and there's a lot of holes in our system, in our processes. It has nothing to do with the software companies and the other companies that I'm involved with. So I'm like, you're done. You guys are done. And they're blown away, right? Because they're like, what? There's no way he's going to do that. Yeah, well, I fucking did it. And yeah, it's a kick in the nuts as far as income. But you know what? I know I can build and scale companies. I've been doing it for 30 years. This is the first time.
Well, that means that you have freedom.
Yeah,
is what it is. You've lost the fear, so you're not ruled by fear. And when you operate without fear, you're free.
I don't have as much money as I used to, but I'm
but you're on your way again.
That's right, dude. And I can always make money. I did a seminar last night with, I'm like, let's do something different. I want to do one on many because I've sold from the stage. I've sold baggy pants. I've cut lawns, sold credit cards, built my own software. I'm like, let's do something different last night. There's 11, 12 companies here. Put it all together, did an event, 50% of the room bought. I'm like, that's sales.
There you go.
There you go. That worked.
You still got it.
There you go.
Still got it.
I got validation. So funny. My lady was giving me shit about PowerPoint and all this other stuff. And I'm like, do you forget the fact that I've closed $100,000 in sales with a fucking flip chart on a weekend? And anyway, at the end of the day, we had a situation. We were debriefing and she was like, I need more time for the PowerPoint. And I'm like, okay. But then when the guys came in the room, the sales guy who, basically is writing up the orders and getting with all the companies, right? He comes in and, in front of the team, she's talking about the PowerPoint, and she wants to make her point. And I'm like, okay. All right. Anyway, we got through it. He comes in, he tells the numbers, 50% of the room. She runs across the room and jumps in my lap. She's so fucking happy. She's got tears going down her face and she's like, you still got it. I'm like, what the fuck? You think I did it? Like, and the whole team's laughing, right? The whole team's laughing. I'm like, wow. I just need to go back and do all the sales. It's no big deal. What's the most memorable? And this was memorable, but I've had lots of memorable moments. And a lot of those memorable moments for me, Scott, was, after I bought my mom a house and I bought myself a car, a modest Blazer or whatever, the first time I gave away a car to one of my people, right? And since then, I think we've given away 20 cars. They earn them. Oh, you got to stop, right?
Yeah, I gotta run. But I'll answer this question and then I gotta run. I mean, I've always been a believer in if you're going to run some kind of contest of sorts, you want to give away an experience or a thing, not just cash. If you just give somebody cash, they're going to spend it on freaking groceries or the rent or something boring like that. If you send people on a trip, that's a lifetime of memories. If you get somebody a brand new car, that thing's going to serve them for 10 years, drive all around the country or whatever. So many memories can be made, right? So, you've given away cars. I bought a motorcycle and brought it into the office and parked it in the middle of the sales floor one time. And the winner of the sales contest got to wheel the motorcycle out of the office and take it home. I've sent people to Paris. I've sent people to Ibiza, Spain to party. I've sent people to Mexico. I've sent people on cruises, all of these kinds of things. And, they get people fired up. They keep people motivated, but more than that, it's a lasting memory, right? And I think that stuff matters. Nobody has ever said, John, 10 years ago, I won this sales contest and won an extra $10,000 cash. Nobody talks like that. But what they do say is they'll say, John, I won this sales contest 10 years ago. I won a trip for 2 to Paris and I got to take my husband on this trip and it was amazing and da-da-da-da. They remember that. And so that stuff is where I think leaders should focus for sure on experiences and on things if you're going to try to reward people.
Yeah. So it's memorable. It lasts.
It's memorable. It's a forever memory.
Yeah, I get it. So how do I work with you, Scott? I'm not, and this is not for the listeners out there. You guys figure your own shit out. How about that?
I mean, people who work with me are looking to lock in their go-to-market strategy, build out sales playbooks, lock in the messaging, get this operational rigor going in terms of data and lead scoring and reporting and all this kind of stuff. Most people that I work with need help recruiting at some point in time, coaching and training, building out affiliate programs and partnership programs, all this kind of thing. And the easiest thing to do is to find me on LinkedIn. You can take a look at what I'm up to. You can find my website, scottleaseconsulting.com. You can shoot me a note through the website or through LinkedIn, and I'm happy to have a chat, with you or anybody else that is looking for help in growing and scaling their small, kind of big potential, big scalable business. Those are the types of people that I want to work with.
This is for everybody else out there. I was being, sarcastic. I mean, if you wanted to give me an award, I could get one for that. But no, I like having fun. I love this, Scott. I'd love to do this again, especially, going deeper into what other companies can do. The podcast, the Sales Machine, everything I've done in my last 30 years is really helping ordinary people become extraordinary, whether it would be systems, processes, opportunity, or technology. And so I'd love to do this again. I'm really grateful for your time, Scott.
You're welcome. Want an extra $10,000 cash. Nobody talks like that. But what they do say is they'll say, John, I won this sales contest 10 years ago. I won a trip for 2 to Paris, and I got to take my husband on this trip, and it was amazing, and da-da-da-da. They remember that. And so that stuff is where I think leaders should focus, for sure, on experiences and on things if you're going to try to reward people.
Yeah, so it's memorable. It lasts.
It's memorable. It's a forever memory.
Yeah, I get it. So how do I work with you, Scott? I'm not, and this is not for the listeners out there. You guys figure your own shit out. How about that?
I mean, people who work with me are looking to lock in their go-to-market strategy, build out sales playbooks, lock in the messaging, get this operational rigor going in terms of data and lead scoring and reporting and all this kind of stuff. Most people that I work with need help recruiting at some point in time, coaching and training, building out affiliate programs and partnership programs, all this kind of thing. And the easiest thing to do is to find me on LinkedIn. You can take a look at what I'm up to. You can find my website, scottleaseconsulting.com. You can shoot me a note through the website or through LinkedIn, and I'm happy to have a chat, with you or anybody else that is looking for help in growing and scaling their small, kind of big potential, big scalable business. Those are the types of people that I want to work with.
This is for everybody else out there. I was being, sarcastic. I mean, if you wanted to give me an award, I could get one for that. But no, I like having fun. I love this, Scott. I'd love to do this again, especially, going deeper into what other companies can do. The podcast, the Sales Machine, everything I've done in my last 30 years is really helping ordinary people become extraordinary, whether it would be systems, processes, opportunity, or technology. And so I'd love to do this again. I'm really grateful for your time, Scott.
You're welcome.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to send a review about what you liked on this podcast or share it with somebody who would need it to definitely improve their business, building and scaling sales teams, do me a favor, like, share. It means a lot to me so that we can help others grow and live in abundance. That's a wrap, folks. Thanks for joining me today. And if you got value from this episode, do me a favor, like, subscribe, and refer a friend. And if you want even more value, go to thesalesmachine.com, click on resources, and there's tons of resources there to increase profits and drive performance in your business. Right on, come on.